Port Perry Santa Claus Parade receives approval for road parade. Dan Kearns, local journalism initiative reporter for The Standard. Scugog. The Port Perry Santa Claus Parade is switching back to its normal format. Originally, parade organizers had planned to hold a reverse parade at the Port Perry Fairgrounds. In this format, residents could walk or drive through the fairgrounds and see the floats, Christmas trees, and hear live music. However, on Tuesday, November 16th, the Scugog Chamber announced a change to the way the parade would be held. Due to changes in regulations from the province, we have been given the go-ahead to change the format of the parade to a traditional road parade. Please join us Saturday, December 4th, as we celebrate the return of Santa Claus to Scugog, read a Facebook post from the Scugog Chamber of Commerce. The parade will start at 5 p.m. on Saturday, December 4th. It will begin at the corner of Reach Street and Simcoe Street, and will then travel south to Queen Street, then east to Water Street before finishing its journey at Mary Street. The Scugog Chamber encourages people to wear masks when in attendance, if 2 meter social distancing cannot be maintained. Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority acquires more land. Dan Kearns, local journalism initiative reporter for The Standard. Brock. The Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority, LSRCA, has recently acquired 137 acres in Brock Township. The land transfer was finalized late last week and is a mix of wetland and floodplain in the Beaver River Wetland Conservation Area in the township of Brock, read the LSRCA press release, sent out on Tuesday, November 16th. In a statement, the Conservation Authority's General Manager of Conservation Lands, Brian Kemp, called this addition a huge win for the watershed. Wetlands are highly valued carbon sinks, helping to mitigate the effects of climate change. They also help protect against flooding in nearby areas, he stated. In an email to The Standard, LSRCA communications official Susan Yogminis explained this land was purchased from a private citizen, and the purchase was funded through their own funds, as well as some funding from the region of Durham and the Lake Simcoe Conservation Foundation. We are thankful to be able to have collaborated to make this acquisition a reality, Ms. Yogminis' email read. It's hard to put a timeline on the negotiation process. Land acquisitions come after building relationships, which can take years to develop, which I believe was the case with this purchase. We'd love to be able to make more announcements like this, but we are limited in our resources. The costs associated with land acquisition are complex. Beyond the purchase price, costs include legal, appraisal, environmental audits, property cleanup, land transfer tax, fencing, site securement, administration, ongoing maintenance if there are amenities, and other administrative costs. Even land donations can come with these extra costs which need to be factored in. Because of our limited budget around land acquisition, one of our key strategies is to acquire lands which add to existing protected land, provide restoration opportunities, or which create corridors between existing lands. Jason Ward to run for Kawartha Lakes mayor position. Dan Kearns, local journalism initiative reporter for The Standard. Kawartha Lakes. Longtime Lindsay lawyer Jason Ward is going to be running for mayor of Kawartha Lakes in the next municipal election. Mr. Ward owns Ward's Lawyers PC, a firm based in Lindsay, and practices civil litigation. Public service has always been in the back of my mind. I have got to the point in my professional career where I have achieved my objectives and what I set out to do. I'm ready for a change and to bring the skill set I've acquired into a new set of services, Mr. Ward told The Standard. Mr. Ward previously dipped his toes into politics in 2003 when he ran as a Liberal candidate in the Ontario provincial election. I learned during that time about how politics is about fielding and dealing with unlimited demand amongst very limited resources. That means decisions need to be made and analysis needs to be done. Frequently, efficiency and change needs to be constantly analyzed, he explained. Mr. Ward discussed why he decided now was the right time for him to throw his hat in the municipal ring. I'm at the point now where my children are older. The law firm is doing very well and doesn't need me anymore. That's where I'm making a change, to fulfill some of my other objectives in life. Mr. Ward plans to retire from his law practice. I would be dedicating my entire time to the mayorship, he stated. Development-wise, he views growth in the municipality as inevitable. We can't maintain a quiet, sleepy community attitude. The population is increasing, development is increasing, and the key is to manage that growth and development in a way which is consistent with our historic values. One challenge for the city will be navigating the challenges the COVID-19 pandemic has created. I think Council's challenge over the next several years will be partly fiscal. I think at this point in time, the city and the Council need to look at our financial viability and what we are spending on the services we want versus what we can afford. I think the pandemic has exacerbated that issue, he said. Mr. Ward is not fazed about the possibility of running against experienced municipal candidates in next year's election. I'm a trial lawyer. I like a good fight. That's what I do. So I'm looking forward to that, Mr. Ward said. He believes there are lessons he can take from his present career and apply to this new endeavor. My entire career has been about weighing evidence, listening to different sides and opinions, and coming up with the right answer, not just legally, but also morally, he explained. Brock Township seeks Indigenous input following image sign concerns. Dan Kearns, The Standard, Brock. A concern regarding a couple of installations at the Beaverton Harbor encouraged Brock Council to make more steps towards Indigenous reconciliation. At a meeting on Monday, November 22nd, Allison Bishop told councilors she was dismayed when she saw a mural and historical information sign at the harbor. The sign describes the history of commercial fishing on the lake and briefly mentions that First Nations people used to live in the area and practice spearfishing. What's of note in the statement is in the past tense, suggesting Indigenous peoples no longer live in this territory or continue to steward these waters, she explained. Ms. Bishop then moved on to her thoughts on the mural. It depicts an Indigenous settlement on the left, which is filled with dark brown bodies wearing headdresses and buckskin loincloths. The settlement is filled with teepees and images of buffalo. These images draw heavily on Hollywood stereotypes, specifically of Plains Cree people. She added the mural can be seen as an insulting caricature of local First Nations peoples. It was later determined the mural was created in 2008 as a school-led project. I think the Township of Brock has a lot of work to do in terms of truth and reconciliation, and properly honoring Indigenous people, Ward 2 Councillor Claire Doble said. Ms. Bishop framed this issue as an opportunity to revisit our shared stories. Council later voted to reach out to the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation and the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation for advice and input on the issues raised and to see if there are any other offensive images in the municipality.
Life taking care of life. The Central Christian celebration of Christmas is approaching fast. In our family, it starts on December 7th for the Hungarian time of Christmas. It is close to the Jewish time of Hanukkah, this year November 28th to December 6th, a celebration of freedom from oppression. No coincidence there. This also overlaps the beginning of Advent, a time commemorating Christ our Deliverer, coming both as a child and later when he returns to usher in his heavenly kingdom. In the West, this starts on the Sunday between November 27th and December 3rd each year, and goes through to December 24th. In the Eastern Orthodox Church, it starts on November 15th and goes to December 24th. If one was to look at the reasons behind Christmas, its true historical meaning is only found in the Bible, the #1 bestseller in history. In this celebration of eternal thanksgiving, you would discover a life willing to protect the value of yours through a sobering personal sacrifice of himself. Called Christmas, or in Greek Xmas, the X being the first letter in the word expiotus, hopefully I've pronounced that right, which means Christ. It is a commemoration of gratefulness to our tremendous God, who came to us in the form of a little child, in order to live a life like us, so we would know he related to our struggles, and we could identify with him. He became vulnerable to the ravages of our own internal darkness and despair by becoming human, yet he never succumbed to, and so wasn't corrupted by its influence. His quality of existence was beyond any of ours, and so he offered himself up as our replacement in the judgment and destruction of the power of sin over our lives. Human beings have an unfortunate habit of compromising themselves, often when they mean otherwise. This is evidence of the indwelling of a sin principle, an infection in the heart of humankind, which produces the irrationality of control and fear, coldness of heart, selfishness, and the like. Nevertheless, in order to remove those very impulses at their source, Christ sought us and died in our place to remove habitual and impulsive bondages. Now we celebrate his life of love at Christmas time and pay it forward to others in gratefulness. Because the nature of his life is God himself, Jesus acted as his own supplier of the vessel, which would contain the power of guilt, fear, anger, and prejudice operating in our inner lives. That vessel was himself, a child born into this world to grow to purpose. Full of the contriteness we need and seem oblivious to, he died in a chosen act of love through the agonizing method of the cross. He transferred to himself the spiritual substance of sin found within us. The protective anger of God for us was unleashed on him while winning peace for us with the same source of life, God. The pain of separation from ultimate love and the brutal effects of sin upon us, which went along with it, was endured by Christ, so we could be preserved eternally, if we will allow his gift of life to rule us. He acted protectively against our mass degradation as an immune system that has to kill a virus. That virus was too strong for any of us or all of us collectively to beat. Consequently, it needed to be transferred to another host, in this case himself. Then, his unlimited immune system could destroy the virus of sin. Once the immunity was unleashed and the virus destroyed, the inoculation was prepared and drawn from his own blood. The wisdom of this is apparent in the development of a vaccine against COVID-19 today. I watched a special on TV of those in Britain who responded to a call for a medical procedure, one where healthy persons would be injected with the COVID virus and remain under medical supervision until the virus had run its course, all with the intention of identifying and gleaning antibodies and knowledge with which to master this enemy. They were laying down their lives to save all of us who need the help. That's goodwill toward others. What a parallel. You've heard the saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. In addition, building our immune system through organic diet, exercise, and supplementation, herbal or not, is great. Yet the sound wisdom of preventative maintenance includes a willingness to recognize susceptibility in the first place. The irony is, if we applied this logic in life, we may not inherit such weaknesses to viruses in general, and would likely have much lower infection rates, struggle less to fight them off, or lose as many to them. Just like in Christian circles, it's always advocated to follow the wisdom in the Bible. A person needs to learn about their spiritual health condition and the reasons for any struggles they may have. As far as the cure for spiritual disease in the nature of each of us is concerned, what remains is for us to ask God for the inoculation, confessing trust in Jesus' sacrifice and offer of his victorious life to inhabit us and provide spiritual relief. It's good science, really, if you'll look at it. It's being left up to us as to what we will do with the offer of a healthy spiritual immune system. The reason Christ's sacrifice hasn't brought peace on earth and goodwill toward men to so many out there is because it still remains for each person to recognize and admit to God they need this outside help. He is also biblically known as the Great Physician. Being in the dark leaves one unable to truly perceive, and as a knee-jerk reaction, many rely on their own uninformed judgment. It's pride and fear manipulating us to resist the needed help from another. This is not a sound way to navigate any issue. The fact is, sin remains in the world around. Much unnecessary suffering is due to our lack of acceptance of Christ's benefits ruling in our hearts on a personal basis. Like any disease, it is cured one cell at a time, as the vaccination spreads through the body. If we will accept the life of this child, born for us in the darkest time of the year, to provide life, the warmth of connection through our mutual association with him, and the rule of love in our hearts, God's gift of substitution could then individually destroy what harms us inside, and collectively there may be a little more peace on earth and goodwill toward all of us all year round. In this season of Thanksgiving, Merry Xmas.
The Standard Podcast was produced by Greenstream Studio for the Standard newspaper.